the show, everyone. It's a beautiful day, and it's a great day to be talking to everybody through the radio about what you do, and that's what we're doing here. My first guest has been on my show several times. I mean, we're talking a few years now already.
For sure.
I have with me Michael Van Vleck, and he is the owner and designated broker of Denali, Arizona. Tell everybody a little bit about you and what you do.
Okay, so Denali Real Estate is an Arizona licensed brokerage. We specialize in investments, real estate investments for whether they be somebody who's looking to buy or sell investment property. We have specific and proprietary analytics that we help with there. And we also have a property management component of what we do. I'd like to think that it's second to none. There's a lot of things that we do on our property management side that's highly unique in our industry of what other folks do in Arizona. We'll touch a little bit on that today as we go through, but we can certainly provide more details on that if anybody has questions.
What I love about you, Michael, is that you are all about educating. You are not necessarily, people call you all of the time because there's a lot of people out there that try and do these things themselves, and it ain't easy. It ain't easy, and they get in some trouble, but you're there to help them. That's what you're all about. You want to help people do this.
That's right. So a lot of the calls that I get after the show and just in general are people that have run into trouble. They have questions. Mike, what do I do? Ultimately, I think a lot of times people find that they're sort of out of their league and where they are, and maybe they'll hire a company like us. But, always owners usually try to do it themselves to save a little bit of money. I've had owners that have tried to do that, and it's cost them exponentially more. So...
yeah, people think that they can do it, and it's really not that easy to do. And Michael's been doing this for how long, Mike?
Almost 20 years total.
20 years. He's got a lot of experience, and he's here to educate you, and we're going to talk about that. We are live on Facebook, and I just want to say hello to everybody out there. Hi, like us, follow us. We're going to share this afterwards, and everybody then can start sharing it, and it will just keep on going and going and going. What are we going to talk about today? You've got tips for good property management, including summer tips.
That's right. So this is sort of a revisit of some discussion we've had before. I've modified a little bit since we're entering into the summer. I think there's a few things for somebody who's managing a property themselves that they might want to consider specifically for the summer. So we'll definitely talk about that as we go through. But having said that, I'm going to roll right in. Are you okay?
I'm ready.
Okay.
I'm letting you do your thing.
The bottom line, I think, in anything that you do, before you jump in, the first thing you need to do is educate yourself. So just like we're educating here today, as an individual landlord, I think there's a couple of things that you can easily do to educate yourself. Now, it requires some reading. Some people don't like that, but sadly, that's what you're going to have to do. The first thing that you should do, you can do a web search for the Arizona Residential Landlord Tenant Act. It's very, very easy. That'll outline all kinds of things that you as a landlord have to follow, tenants' rights. It covers a lot of different situations of things that might happen and how you're supposed to go about doing it. Sometimes the interpretation is a little difficult. So in our case, in my situation, if you have a situation that you're not exactly sure how to interpret, there's one thing. Everybody who reads these things interprets it in their own way. But the reality is that there's a way the court system will interpret it, right? So that's really what you need to know. If a judge is going to interpret it one way, but you think it should be another, it doesn't really matter what you think. So
wait, you say that the first thing they need to do is read, but if they're reading it incorrectly and not the right way, then is it that they should read it and maybe talk to you, let's say, about it?
I totally agree. So a lot of the stuff is very straightforward, but usually if you run into some trouble, you don't know what you're supposed to do, that's when you call. If it's not something that is easily intuitive on your end, then call us. We'll be able to help you with that.
Well, I think what you do, and you've always said it, that you want to arm people with advice. That is a very important thing for you to make good decisions about what you're doing, and that's what Mike's here to do.
Yeah, well, when you're in anything that you do, like in property management, you need to have a good team of people around you. So it doesn't matter whether you know all of these things that you need to. You just need to know where you can get them. So if you can call us, for example, and let's say you need a real estate attorney, I'm happy to refer you to people that we've used that are highly competent, and have experience. So it's really about saying, well, we know somewhere that we can go to get that information. So the Landlord Tenant Act is a great place. You definitely know fair housing laws. That's hugely applicable. If you don't know that, you need to. You can find that on the internet, as well as the Americans with Disabilities Act. Those are big key things that as landlords you kind of need to follow. If you can understand and follow those items, that's going to keep you out of a lot of legal trouble.
But the best thing to do is to listen to Mike or call him and get that information, because that's what he's all about, to help you if you want to start doing this. If you think you're going to read it and it's that easy, it's just not like that. But he can help. The number to call them, it's 480-626-4062. Their website is DenaliArizona.com.
Right. So the next thing I'm going to say, and this, these seem kind of simple, educate yourself. And I'm saying that because it's the first thing you should do, but it's also the thing that most people don't do. They kind of skip over that and just kind of jump right in.
They think they have that house, they've rented it out to maybe their brother or sister, whoever, which you shouldn't do.
I never recommend that.
All right. And so that was for mistake number one that they already did. And then they start in with maybe dealing with fixing up and this and that, or trying to get this and that done, and it's wrong.
Right.
So you're making mistakes no matter what. You got to call Mike. Go ahead.
Okay, so the next thing you should do is just get the property ready to rent. One of the biggest complaints that I hear from folks out looking around for places, they go into somewhere, it's filthy, it's dirty, it's got roaches, the walls are nasty. Like, get your property on the market, get it cleaned, have the yard cleaned up, have it look pretty, so that when people come through, they'll think this is a good landlord. They're taking care of the property, and when they see that, they'll say they want it in a nice condition. That's how I want it. And you'll find that you'll have a better overall renting experience. So it's surprising that how many landlords, especially right now, it's a very hot rental market in the Phoenix area. There's not enough rentals for as many people looking. So a lot of slumlords then will come out and say, well, I'm going to rent my house either way, no matter what I do to it. And, it's less than desirable.
Well, if you're going to have a house like that you're putting out to rent, you're going to get a tenant that is exactly the same. It represents exactly. You probably wouldn't care either.
That's right.
And you don't want roaches, for your tenants. Go ahead.
That's right. Well, those are the two easy ones. The next one I think is particular, and it's something that is kind of near and dear to me, which is you should know how to receive applications correctly. So a lot of people say, hey, put out an application, let people fill it out. In my opinion, this is where a lot of people screw up the process. Okay, so number one, everyone charges an application fee. So if you want to apply for a rental, you have to pay to do it. So that seems crazy. If you're an owner, you're trying to find the best tenants possible. You're creating this barrier for them to apply, because a lot of people, especially in the rental market right now where it's tight, they may have to apply for 2 or 3 or 4 places before they can possibly get one. So because of that, they're dropping $30, $40, $50 each adult, and they're not getting anything for it. So a lot of managers and owners, what they do is they'll say, oh, I'll take 5 applications and I'll take application fees on all of them, and then it's non-refundable. It's ridiculous. So in our case, we don't charge any application fees for any of our properties, and the result is we get more applications. It doesn't mean they're all great, but as an owner, that's okay. You can go through those, but if you're charging these barrier to entry application fees, you're going to get fewer. So my recommendation, I wish more people in the industry did it. It's the number one complaint of people when they're trying to apply. So that's number one. Number two, you should have a written criteria to rent. I've helped people find rentals. Most people don't. And the criteria to rent is, these are the things that you must meet to qualify for this rental property. And it's very transparent then of what you're doing. So you can't say, well, I need to like your credit score, but I don't have exactly an idea of what it should be. Or you need to have a job, but you don't really say what kind of job.
What we're going to do is we're going to go to a break, and when we come back, we're going to talk further, because that's a great way. It's like a cliffhanger here of what to do. And Michael is all about educating everybody. So the phone number to call them, there's always someone there to talk to you about this. It's 480-626-4062. It's Denali Arizona.com. Hang tight. We'll be back in just a minute. So welcome back, everyone. We are talking with Michael Van Vleck, and he is the designated broker of Denali Arizona Real Estate. We were just talking a little bit about, some of the things that they need to do. And what was that you wanted? I cut you right off.
No, that's okay. I mean, we were talking about just receiving applications the right way, no application fees like the way that we do it. We have a written criteria to rent, so everyone gets treated fairly. In our case, we handle the applications in the order they come in, right? So if you're the first person who applies for one of our homes, you don't pay an application fee, but you get us everything that we need on our instructions, and you meet the criteria to rent, then we'll begin processing you. It doesn't matter if we have 10 people behind you. I think the sad thing is that what a lot of people do is they take 10 applications, they lay them all out on the table, and they decide which one they like the best. And sadly, that's unfair. In my opinion, it can be perceived as discriminatory, because let's say you have somebody in a protected class in one of those applications, and you somehow pick somebody else. They submitted their application first. They should have been considered first, and if they are reasonably qualified, then you should have offered them the place. So in our way that we do it is very transparent. We let everyone know where they are in the process. We don't take money up front, so we're not stealing people's money. So I think that doing it that way has allowed us to rent more homes on a more consistent basis than either our competitors, and certainly against owners doing it against themselves. So I think it's a huge thing for somebody who wants to differentiate themselves in the market.
And I think that sets you very much apart, along with a lot of other things. But that in itself, and listen to this. I mean, when you are a property owner and you own, and this is something that I think is really important for you investors to hear, is that he's there for you. He is going to get more applications and find the right one instead of getting, a couple of them here and there. You always have your tenants, your properties are always getting filled.
Yeah, we have a 99.5%
That's what I wanted to say.
It's crazy. Now, which is one part of it, but our leasing process and how we do it, this is just one part. We have a whole bunch of other things that we have as part of that process that really sets us apart. So I think that's important. The next thing I want to talk about, tips for good property management, is the lease agreement. The lease agreement is the legal contract between you and the tenant, and it spells out who's responsible for certain things, what happens in certain cases. I've seen so many lease agreements that are 1, 2, or 3 pages. I have no idea how you can cover the amount of things that as an owner you should be protected from in 3 pages. So I would say make sure your lease agreement covers the things that it should. If you don't know, I'm happy to talk about it. But each owner may have specific needs. Each property is different. One might have a swimming pool and one might not. And so when we have a house with a swimming pool, we have an addendum to our lease agreement for that. So each property, you have to really tailor it to what you have going on. There's also a couple things you might want to exclude. Number one, in our lease agreement, for example, we don't allow home-based businesses. Now, this doesn't mean
Mary Kay is rolling over in her grave.
Well, that doesn't mean a business that you're running on a computer or whatever, but it specifically outlines in our lease agreement. It would be businesses that require large amounts of inventory. Like, let's say, you're a vendor that sells appliances and you're stacking up all your used appliances in your backyard, or something like that, where you have the UPS guy coming and dropping off a truckload of stuff every day. That would be, or a home-based business where your customers or clients are required to come to the home to get the business, right? So those are businesses that we exclude. Other things we exclude trampolines and swing sets in our lease agreements, specifically because there's significant insurance liability for an owner, and most insurance policies for owners actually exclude those as allowable items. So, obviously you have kids in the backyard.
Kids are getting hurt.
Yeah, they get hurt.
This makes sense.
They start suing whoever they can.
Right.
So
exactly.
That's why we exclude them. So those are kinds of things. There's a lot of those things, but those are things a lot of owners don't consider.
Right.
They don't know how to handle it.
Mike just wants to arm you with the best advice that he can give you, and so that you can make good decisions. That's what he's all about. You can call him direct. His number is 480-626-4062. It's DenaliArizona.com.
Okay, so this is our summer component of this segment, which talks about a couple things to consider because it's the summer. Number one, everybody likes swimming in the summer. Okay, so if you have a rental with a swimming pool, you have some definite larger legal considerations. I do have some owners that will say, I don't want to own a house with a pool because of the liability. I think if you do a certain couple things that I'm going to tell you about right now, you can avoid that and be just fine. Number one, you have to protect the backyard, right? So if the backyard where the pool is, you need to protect it from certain access. Number one, any door entrance from the house to the backyard has to self-close, has to close on its own and latch. And that latch has to be 5 feet above the ground so that a kid can't do it, open it, right? So so in other words, that door has to meet specific criteria. A lot of them don't. If it's a sliding patio door, it has to self-close and latch. So when you open it, it's hard. There's certain door closing systems. There's a few vendors that we use that do that. Really important. If you don't have that and something happens, you're in deep doo-doo.
Right, you are. And be careful, because that's what they want you to understand. It's not as easy as you think just to have your own property and start being your own property manager.
I totally agree. Now, another thing is the dog door. People forget this. If you have a dog door that goes to your backyard and you have a swimming pool, a lot of people don't think of that in terms of access to the yard. And there are cases in the summer where a little kid will crawl out the doggy door and the next thing you know, they're in the pool. And so it's one of those things. My recommendation is, if you have a dog, don't be lazy, let it out. Get rid of the doggy door. If you have small children, just don't even have it if you have a swimming pool. There's nothing you can do after the child has already gone through the door in the backyard. It's not worth it. So that was what all I have to say about swimming pools. In terms of air conditioning, everybody's running their air conditioning like crazy. If you have a rental, consider either doing an annual checkup on your AC. A lot of tenants, the number one thing they do is they don't change their air filters. They let that sucker run. It gets clogged full of dust and nastiness.
Well, they're 30 feet high. They're hard to get to. Mike,
I get
help
it.
us.
Okay, so if you're concerned about that and your tenants don't, then consider spending the $15 and buy them 12 of the filters and put them in the house and just let them have it.
Right. Or come by once a month if you've got, make it a service. I'll tell you something, that's a great business right there. You would be, okay, that's it. We'll talk about it after the show. Go ahead.
Somebody's actually approached me about that business.
It's a great idea.
You actually can order air filters off the internet that will be delivered to your house once a month.
It's putting them in. It's not
I know.
it's getting them up there. Okay, go ahead.
Well, so that is a big issue, because if your air filter gets clogged, it can cause massive issues for your AC. Not only that, but it costs you more to run the unit because it's having a harder time doing it.
And they always go out when it's the hottest time.
You're exactly right. So those are just a couple things for the summer that you might want to do. There's some other stuff as well. Like you might want to set your irrigation so that it's watering more. It's going to need more water so your vegetation doesn't die. I mean, those are some things that you'll definitely want to consider for the summer season.
What about this? You've got register your rental. What does that mean?
Okay, so tips for good property management, you should register your rental. Maricopa County, for example, requires all owners of rental property to register their property with the county as a rental. It only costs you $10, but you have to do it. If you don't, you can be fined.
People that don't do it?
Absolutely.
And they probably don't even know
because they don't know. That's why I'm saying.
That's why Mike is here. Go ahead. Keep that up.
So you register your rental. There is cases where tenants have been able to get out of their lease because the owner hasn't registered their rental. It's a small little loophole. So register your rental. It costs $10. It's a piece of cake. Just do it. If you don't know how to do it, you can call us. I'll walk you through it. It's $10.
And you know what? That's what he's here for. He wants to educate you. Anybody out there that's trying to do it themselves, or if you're thinking about maybe if you have more, or you're looking for somebody like Mike maybe to do your property management for you, he's the guy to call. He's been doing this for 20 years, and he's helped a lot of people out there. The phone number to call and direct is 480-626-4062. It's DenaliArizona.com. Expect the unexpected.
Of course. I think one of the things that most landlords have an issue with is they're expecting perfection, right? They go through it, there's a little speed bump in the road, and they lose it. And for them, they have a hard time dealing with that. So I think don't expect perfection. It's not going to be perfect. realize that when things happen, you have to find a way to address it. Things are going to break in your home. You have to decide what kind of landlord are you going to be. Are you going to be the one that fights these things and fights your tenant on everything, or are you going to be firm on what you require, but as a landlord, also make sure you're keeping the property up. I think that'll go a long way to keeping your tenants there.
And also being fair.
I totally agree. A lot of landlords, I think the issue is they don't understand the law and what it is they should be doing, and so because of that, they make a lot of mistakes there.
You don't want to make mistakes, and that's why Mike is here to talk to you and educate you all a little bit. You can also call him direct. He loves it. If you call him, he's always there. There's somebody there all the time. That phone number to call, it's 480-626-4062. That website is DenaliArizona.com.